Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am not here with Kiki Sparkles in this video. I'm talking about Jerry Seinfeld, and she doesn't think Jerry Seinfeld's very funny. She doesn't like Seinfeld very much, so she's not going to sit in on this video. I actually like Jerry Seinfeld. I used to watch Seinfeld all the time, and he is on fire lately. He is taking on Hollywood, kind of maybe biting the hand that feeds a little bit, but him and Larry David, Elmo Chokin, Larry David, are having a field day making fun of current year Hollywood and how unfunny it really is. So we're going to talk about this, and I think there may be a correlation between the things that Jerry Seinfeld is saying lately. And I did a video about this a couple days ago that he said that, you know, we're not allowed to be funny. And he was the one who said like 10 years ago he didn't even play colleges anymore because college kids can't take a joke. Obviously, if you're paying attention to what's going on at Columbia and UCLA, they cannot take a joke. They are the joke, some of them, but they can't take a joke. But he has a new Netflix movie out about Pop-Tarts, and multiple outlets, they're all in lockstep. Unfrosted, one of the decade's worst movies. One of the decade's worst movies. It's one of the worst movies ever. The Pop-Tart movie is terrible, and it might be terrible. I haven't seen it. I might actually give it a chance though now, because I gotta admit I'm morbidly curious about it. But yeah, he's like, we're not allowed to be funny anymore, and there's a lot of extreme leftism and PC crap going on in Hollywood. And let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. This is coming from the Spokesman Review. Jerry Seinfeld says the extreme left and PC crap are hurting comedy. He said in an interview with the New Yorker, he said some of his jokes from the 90s would be subject to cancel culture today. One of the plots from Seinfeld involved Kramer's business venture to have homeless people pull rickshaws because they're outside anyway. Do you think I could get away with that in an episode today? No. No, you could not. There's so many things, and so weird. It's not just Seinfeld. And Seinfeld was, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. Even comedies made 10 or 12 or 15 years ago now are coming under fire. Community is coming under fire. There are episodes of Community that have been banned. The infamous blackface episode. There are other episodes of comedies that they've edited them or censored parts out because of whatever current year sensibility there is. And you have to remember, a lot of these shows are a product of their time. But everybody's so damn offended by everything now that you might as well just stop being funny. And just, because I mean, there's a big difference between, I guess, liberal entertainment then and now. Back in the day, people could take a joke. They made jokes. Everything was funny. And you could get your point across. Sometimes you got your point across better if it was couched in a joke. Now, they just want to preach at you. They just want to lecture you. It's like, literally is like the left-wing version of really ham-fisted Christian entertainment from like the 90s or something, the 80s, like Bible Man, but like the left-wing version of that. Like this, maybe, Willie Ames is an okay guy, right? I'm not dunking on Willie Ames, but I'm just saying, like, it was very obvious propaganda back then, and you can see it now coming from the left. It's very obvious propaganda. It's political propaganda instead of religious propaganda, but it's still propaganda, and it's still, the message is first, and people are rejecting this entertainment. They're like, we just want to kind of turn our brains off and have a laugh and not have to deal with this shit day in and day out. So when the New Yorker's David Remnick said he couldn't watch Unfrosted without thinking about the Israel-Hamas war and other humanitarian issues across the world, Seinfeld dismissed the idea that comedy could or should be affected or diluted by world events. What the fuck? This is right up there with that, was it Kotaku or Polygon? They're interchangeable. They had that review of the PlayStation 5 during the pandemic, and the reviewer spent the first half reviewing the console, and then the second half was all about how guilty he felt playing video games during a global pandemic and Trump being in charge. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Jerry Seinfeld says, nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly and they don't get it. Seinfeld went on to reflect on how the lack of comfort sitcoms like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, MASH, Cheers, All in the Family, which was a very progressive show, but it was also legitimately funny and legitimately entertaining. And Norman Lear did it better than any of these hacks in Hollywood are doing it now. And he did it like 40, 50 years ago. I'm just saying. He said it always guaranteed audiences had something funny to watch. He said he doesn't think that's the case anymore. It's not. This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. Look, his BFF, Larry David, fucking choked Elmo on the air. That's funny. That is an episode of Seinfeld. I'm just saying. Elmo didn't think it was funny. But that is an episode of Seinfeld right there. That's something that Jerry or Kramer would have, actually George, I think, would have been the one to choke Elmo on the air. He noted that if audiences are looking for edgier comedy, they have to turn to stand-up comics because they're not allowed to be policed by anyone, adding they know when they're off track. When Remnick, who had previously asked Seinfeld about his longtime collaborator, Larry David, in the finale of Curb Your Enthusiasm, wondered how David could pull off provocative, irreverent comedy today, Seinfeld said he had been grandfathered in. That's probably true. That probably is true to some extent. David, who began his career in the 70s, can break the rules in place today, according to Seinfeld, because he had been making comedy for decades before the rules existed. Yeah, but they're canceling older comedians too. They're canceling everybody. They're looking, you get on a list, Jerry, you get on a list, and then they look for a reason to cancel your ass. But Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David have so much damn money from Seinfeld. Like, those guys could stop working tomorrow and they would be fine. Like, everybody that worked on Seinfeld, they still get residuals, right? Every rerun, every Blu-ray set they sell, they get, all the merchandise. They're all set for life. They don't have to work. Nobody that worked on Friends has to work anymore. So, I think you've kind of got that too. And I think there's a big difference between people that don't really have to work and people that are always looking for their next job, and they're not going to get that next job because of the PC crap going on. But yeah, he said Seinfeld said he doesn't think a younger person could start out today making television shows like Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm, even though audiences seek out boundary-pushing content on HBO and its competitors. Look at South Park. South Park, arguably, it feels like it's actually more popular today than when it premiered in the 90s. I mean, it was huge in the 90s, but like, it had a lull for about like 10, 15 years where everybody kind of forgot it was still on the air. But it seems like it's actually bigger now, especially with Gen Z kids. They're like, wow, this is legitimately funny and edgy. And they're allowed to be. Maybe they got grandfathered in. I don't know. But like, people still watch it because they're like, can we just have something fucking funny, please? Please. We're watching Dave Chappelle just because we want something funny. Because you're not allowed to be funny. Sitcoms, the last era of sitcoms we had that were funny, it was about 10 or 15 years ago. And there were some really good ones on. I mean, Community, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine was probably one of the last like legitimately funny shows out there. The Good Place, all of these shows would be problematic now. And they're not that old. We're not talking about something from the 1950s. We're talking about shows from like 2008. They're all problematic now. HBO knows that that's what people come here for, but they're not smart enough to figure out, hey, how do we do this now? Do we take the heat or just not be funny? You take the heat because the vast majority of people aren't on board with the PC crap. They're not. It's the handful of gatekeepers in the media and in Hollywood that are pushing this stuff. Most people just want a good laugh. They just want a good laugh. What they decide to be is like, well, we're not going to do comedies anymore. The comedian says he thinks younger stand-up comedians are pushing the envelope like him and his peers did before, and commended Nate Bargatze. I don't know who a lot of these people are. If you follow comedians, that's fine. I don't know who these people are. Seinfeld is also continuing his own stand-up gigs. He's going to be at the Hollywood Bowl. He's going to be at the Netflix is a Joke Fest. Remember, you're not allowed to make jokes at the Netflix is a Joke Fest, or some psycho is going to attack you with a knife. Ask Chappelle how that went. Beyond the stand-up, he made his directional debut with Unfrosted, a film that follows the race to make Pop-Tarts. Yeah, that was the whole thing. It's interesting because I actually heard about that from the Food That Built America, the whole Pop-Tart thing, because I think Smucker's had it. If I remember the story correctly, Kellogg's was working on it, Smucker's was working on it. I think Smucker's actually did it. I want to say Smucker's did it first, and then Kellogg's stole from them. But everybody's giving it a bad review. And it might be a truly awful movie. I have no idea. B-Movie wasn't very good, other than the memes. It wasn't very good. But it does seem like, well, how dare he call us unfunny? His movie's unfunny. You're unfunny, Jerry Seinfeld. You're a relic from another time. You know, how can we look at you and not think about all the current year politics? I don't know. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys. There we go. Jerry Seinfeld not having it. I think he actually was one of the first people to call this out, if I remember correctly. And it was about 10 years ago. He said, yeah, I'm not going to play colleges anymore because they don't know how to take a joke. And like I said, we're seeing that right now. They don't know how to take a joke. Going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.